Welcome, welcome, family. So grateful to be here. And I just had to hit record right away before I shared too much, catching up with this dear sister, Alisia Sunflower. And you're surrounded by sunflowers.
I'm surrounded by sunflowers. Yes. This is some photo art that I made as well. So it felt good to bring in.
It's so cool. It's so good to see you. Now, Alisia, I met you in Big Island, and I don't even remember the specific moment when I met you, but I just have always felt this resonance with your being of I think it was at the baths, the Wyola maybe, was it? Or what do you remember?
I think in person was the first time was the baths, but our first connection point was Coconut Wireless and Embodied.
Oh my God, that's is on the Coconut. So funny. In Pune, there's the Telegram group, the Coconut Wireless, which is, it's a lot going on in that group. It's a lot.
Yeah. It's full on.
And I remember I saw one of your posts that was about embodied ascension. That's right. And I was I had to reach out to you to be what? You use this term as well. It's so cool. Who are you? I hope I meet you.
Yeah. So it was Embodied Ascension that brought us together, first and foremost.
Wow. Oh my gosh. And then, yeah, and it just feels like so much has happened in that time in between then and now. And we had been wanted to do a podcast with you forever. And it's funny, we're meeting now, new moon, December, the last new moon of December. And we had scheduled our first podcast for the summer solstice in June.
Yeah, right. That's right. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it really has been. Portal to portal. Wow.
Yeah. And just so much transition, so much transition. And then it's so perfect to meet you now as we are now. Of course, it's perfect. Otherwise it wouldn't be happening. But especially because I got to sit with you in ceremony in November, right before I left Big Island, and with Amma Sophia, who I'd also love to connect with here in Visionary Souls. And, and that just that was so beautiful, and also felt important to have that experience to really be able to dive in more about your journey and your story and your path and calling. And and it feels kind of good to also just share celebration and integration from that time too. And and so anyways, coloring kind of what's going to be unfolding here. And how are you feeling today? How are you feeling through the solstice, through the new moon? What's happening in your life? How are you?
Yeah, thank you. I'm feeling of that inward kind of winter solstice pull. I'm in Hawaii, and as you know, and so it's not a huge shift in terms of temperature and things like that. Maybe slightly colder, a little more rainy, but I'm feeling that slowdown energy, that reflective energy. And at the same time, my life is continuing to kind of blossom like these sunflowers around me, and there's movement that's happening often too. So I'm kind of just straddling these two worlds of both this desire to have more space to cocoon and a recognition that my energy is also being called to show up in community and in service in different ways. And so, balancing out with that. But it's a potent time of year. And I definitely have been reflecting on this last year of 2022, whoa, what a year this has been. I came up with a title for it when I did a friend's journaling class. And 2022 was the year that everything came together after everything fell apart. So I'm curious what 2023 will be. And it feels like it's going to be a good one. It feels very expansive.
I was going to say expansion. 2023 feels like embodied expansion.
Embodied expansion. Yes.
Everything has to be embodied now. It's just embodied or not at all.
I feel you. If we're not embodied, what are we doing here? Yeah.
We're definitely not having fun.
No, it's true. Yeah.
You got to be embodied to have the fun, and even going through all the shittiness and the muck and the murkiness and the awkwardness is part of it. And Yeah. And so you asked me before, like, how am I doing in Mexico and moving? And I wanted to just hit record to share what's really alive for me in this transition. I mean, yeah, I moved to Mexico and I did this huge shamanic initiation training and tantra, and I like broke open stuff I didn't even know I still needed to open, and like just so much clearing out of deep. I mean, it's so funny to even get words, just like cleaning out more of what's not true and what's not real, just more and infinitely more. And then also what's alive is like, I finally moved into my own space on the solstice. Of course, it was so funny because I thought I was going to move in sooner, and they're like, nope, nope. Everything just kept guiding me, like, you're moving in on the solstice. Okay, like you must open the portal with the new space. And I woke up on the day of the solstice, 6 a.m., super sick to my stomach, purging, just like sick. And I knew it was energetic and emotional and like cleaning out. The fact that I had also been in shared space for so long. I had a very intense last month in Hawaii where I decided to venture into shared living space with, it's really bizarre. And I'm like, wow, I can't believe I was there. And then I landed in Mexico also with a lot of socializing and shared space and just like, wow. And then when it was finally time to move, my body was like, whoa, like dimensional shifting, and my stomach just cleaning out a lot. And yeah, so I'm still very fresh in that transition, and my body's been kind of like wanting to just fast and be present with all that's moving through. And then instead of Christmas and all the, fun stuff, I'm going to be like in solo retreat mode, like starting tonight, and just like every cell is like asking for quiet, for stillness, for darkness, for just like no external world stimulation, to see what's here. It's so weird. It's such an internal time, but then there's the contrast of the holidays, like go be with your family, go be with friends, like there's that whole thing.
Right.
But it's actually like that whole game is so the opposite of how I feel. And I wonder how many other people maybe feel that way too, but we're conditioned to like hop into the busyness and the socializing, and and so yeah, that's what's alive. I think I'm still integrating our ceremony too, and just November, and I think it will take a long time to integrate. And I know that's one of your specialties, is like helping people with psychedelic integration and support. And you just have such a beautiful presence and ease. You're really easy to be with, and that's my favorite quality in people. It's just like ease of being, and like you're welcome to be as you are, and like thank you for doing the work you've done to be like that, because it's not something I think we are born with it, yeah, but then like it's not something we are maybe sustaining in through our lives. It takes, in my experience, takes work. And so I'd love to get curious about your journey. I know you've had an incredible journey that's brought you into this space of being so easy to be with, and I'd love to know what's alive for you to share about that. Like what kind of started your path of initiation into the shamanic medicine woman healing path?
Yeah. What a beautiful question. And thank you for your beautiful reflections. I really appreciate that. The recognition of ease to be with, because all is welcome here. And I really feel like I did need to welcome myself into that in order to be able to hold this place of presence that allows that to be a safe, welcoming place for other people. Because yes, I agree, we were born with that. And I definitely was conditioned out of that. I think like many of us, like all of us. And so where did my shamanic journey begin? It began, boom, right out the gate, in this lifetime. I've even journeyed back into my mother's womb space and experienced, the imprints of trauma and abuse and things that were already going on for her that then I was receiving from her. But yeah, I grew up in a really abusive family. My father was verbally, physically, emotionally, and sexually abusive to me, to my younger brother, to my mother. And so that really was coloring the first 7 years of my life, first 8 years of my life, until my parents divorced. And following that, my mother instantly found this other man who became this very prominent, highly influential, controlling force in her life. Very narcissistic, psychopathic, but more so than physical violence. His game was all psychological violence, as well as sexual violence. And he became my mother's guru, her everything. And he started grooming me when he first met me at 8 years old. And then when I was 14, he began to sexually abuse me, calling it a part of his therapy for me. He had said he was a psychologist and that this was, him helping me. So I went really deep into the worlds of, sexual misery, as well as the gaslighting and the confusion and that narcissistic, psychopathic control dynamic. Really, for this man named Ron, he not only wanted to like control me in my sexuality and to have that as his own, but he really wanted to own my mind, as well as my heart. And later on, as I got older, he tried to coerce me into relationship with him as well, into like a romantic relationship. So all of that to be said, I think that a lot of people who find themselves on the shamanic path are ones who have walked through the fire and gone through some initiations of trauma, of pain, of really meeting the depths of the darkness that exists in this dimensional reality that we're in. And all of that is absolutely what propelled me forward onto my path of healing. And my own individual path of healing has been deeply intertwined with my path of becoming a healer for other people. So I pursued psychology and sociology in undergrad, and I really started to come into deeper levels of my own personal healing and spiritual awakening journey as I was in grad school to become a mental health counselor. And the combination of learning mindfulness, that embodied presence, reconnecting with my body, realizing that I had been disembodied, as one psychologist I went to a talk from said, like I was like a walking, talking head, and that's it. And then also the path of really learning about ethics and what are ethics in care and in working with people, because that was a big piece that got twisted deeply with Ron, him saying that he was helping me and assisting me when he was abusing me. And then also getting into what is actually consent. I never was taught what consent was or wasn't growing up. And so the combination of those things at a time where I was also starting to get into a little bit more of a crisis within myself led me to this awakening point where I was being abused by Ron for the very last time. And I reconnected with that 14-year-old self who had first been sexually abused by him. And I recognized all this time, all of these years, I'd always been saying no. And I had always known what was right for me. And all that gaslighting started to just melt away. And I knew I was done. I knew I was done. And that moment in time sparked for me a huge transformation and a whole new path of my life. And I ended up completing my degree and becoming a licensed counselor. And as I was doing that and getting deeper into psychology, I went into a PhD program for a minute.
There's Ollie.
There's my dog, Ollie. Hold on one second. I'm going to close this door. This is all part of the interview.
Yeah. I love that she walks outside of a portal. Hi.
This one can't be friendly. I mean, it has another rate.
Oh, okay.
So,
I didn't know that. There's just nobody in here.
yeah, I know, but unfortunately, that's the way it is.
Okay, well, I'm just in the middle of something, so can I finish and then I'll pay for whatever. Probably 1 more hour.
1 more hour?
Yeah.
All right, yeah.
I've just been in here for like 15 minutes. It's like an hour and 15 minutes.
All right, yeah.
Thank you.
We'll check it later.
Okay. Perfect. No, perfect timing because I ended up getting some kind of interference as well.
Okay, great. They had to align the interferences.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Wow. I just had to like find myself taking a few like, whew, like full on deep breaths, just like hearing the ease with which you talk about your experience. And it tells me a lot about how much work you've done to be able to do that. Because it's like, you're so clear and concise, and but also saying like volumes of this body's, this being's experience and this reality. And like, I'm kind of a little bit shocked, also not, because I just know you and feel you, and I'm like, yeah, you're a fucking badass, and of course you like, you know, do what you do and you're here, but also like, wow, like, oh my God, so much bravery and courage to like stick around and like stay on the path. And like, wow, like, thank you for staying. Like, I just feel like, oh my God, so much comes up hearing that, hearing everything you shared.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that recognition, because there's definitely many times in my life that I have wanted to die and then I've wanted to go. And my younger brother, he did take that path. Interestingly enough, in 2012, the same year I started my graduate program and studies in counseling, he took his own life and he died. And, you know, that ended up having, like, as one of my teachers in my master's program said, there's always a gift in the grief. And one of the gifts in the grief of the loss of my brother was a deeper initiation into the understanding of the non-duality of reality, and that life and death are really just mirrors of one another and nothing is ever gone. And that it also really taught me to connect more deeply into source, and that led me to a deep commitment that I will never take my life. I'm here not to do that path. I'm here to be living this life and to be this beacon of healing and change, you know, even if only within myself and in my ancestry. But certainly it shows up in the ways that I am with others and the work that I do. So I wanted to come back to where I was with the piece of being in grad school again, studying a PhD. I wanted to find the research into alternative ways of healing trauma. And I was like, there's something about the indigenous people. They really, there's something here. And I'd been starting to learn more about energy healing, and I'd been, you know, deep in academia for quite a while at this point. And that program was like falling apart. There was all kinds of social disharmony and questions within just kind of the structures, and were they even going to keep the program? They decided to close the program. And I was living in Pullman, Washington, which is just like very rural, very heavy drinking football kind of place. So I felt very, very like I didn't have, you know, culture, community around me that resonated for me. And so it was a hard space, and I decided to leave the program, and I ended up getting a healing session, a quantum healing session, my very first one. And in that space, I had a huge spiritual awakening that came for me a few days later, after she had offered to crack open the wall around my heart in that session. And in that spiritual awakening, I connected deeply with the truth that spirit is the core and the center of me, and that I needed to reorient my whole life to work with that lens, with that frame. And a few days later, maybe a week or so later, I ended up getting accepted into another PhD program where I was going to go to New Mexico State University and go and continue those studies into Indigenous ways of knowing for healing trauma. And I just felt so much anxiety about it. I felt a no. And I realized I needed to really devote myself to my spirit, to my own internal spiritual path in a way that I had never done before. And I couldn't do that in a PhD program. So I turned them down. I called them back and I said, no, I'm not going to do this. I just had a spiritual awakening and I got to devote myself to my spirit. And they're like, okay, we understand.
Okay.
And then right after that, I was like, okay, I'm letting go of this dream, this story, this narrative that had been given, you know, from my mother, who never finished her PhD program, but had her master's in biochemistry.
Interesting.
Right. I was like, okay, I'm not going to be Dr. Alisia anymore. I'm going to give that up. And I'm like, what do I do now?
Here you go,
and
Mom. Take the PhD back.
Yes. And then I went and looked at my computer and saw downloaded podcasts that I had. And there was a podcast interview between Tammy Simon and Sandra Ingerman. And I started listening to Sandra talking about her experience of her reality, her ways of knowing, her spiritual truths, and, you know, her work in the Foundation for Shamanic Studies. And it was like, click, 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 click. It was like, this is what I've been looking for. And I don't even have to do this research. What I wanted to do was basically already done by this organization for like over 30 years. And that is what opened me up explicitly into the shamanic path. And I began, you know, with my first teacher, who I found through the Foundation for Shamanic Studies, Koya, who lives in Phoenix. And she gave me my first initiations in sweat lodge and journeying, and helping me find my power song. And it was really a beautiful beginning. And so since then, it's been this understanding that my own healing journey is deeply intertwined with my professional journey and my spiritual journey, and that I'm here to be a bridge and to straddle these worlds of psychology and counseling, emotional and mental health, as well as shamanism, of medicine work, of this earth-based interdimensional spirituality, and that these two things really actually go together as they did for our ancestors so long ago, and that my path is to be one of those bridges who helps to reweave that forward and into our collective and into the future.
No, amen. Aho, all the words. Ashe.
So it is. Yes, sir.
Oh my gosh, beautiful. Wow, so much magic. How do you define shamanism? Like, what does it actually mean to you?
Yeah, what a beautiful, important question. I think that the word shamanism is actually problematic. And I've had a journey contending with that. And so I don't use the word lightly, but I do use it intentionally. So, you know, the word shaman comes from the Mongoose Tungus people, the Saman, which literally means one who knows, and describes this, you know, medicine man, medicine woman archetype, a person who weaves through the physical, through the non-physical, and helps to bring healing and knowing and divination and medicine for themselves and their community. And that term shaman got adapted after Europeans started to trade into the Siberian lands, and then got picked up by anthropologists such as those who founded the Foundation for Shamanic Study, Michael Harner and Sandra Ingerman, and became this globalized, albeit colonized term to describe this ancient archetypal role within humanity. And it's been, you know, just projected onto all kinds of cultures that they don't have this word. So indigenous cultures all over the world have this archetype. It is a very natural part of humanity. And indeed, what we call shamanism is like the oldest spirituality of humanity, going back like 20, 30,000 years. However, yeah, it's not really the best word to be using. And at the same time, it has become this like globalized lingo. So, you know, if I were just to say to someone, well, I'm someone who knows, you know, it might not
Right.
have the same kind of clinch, you know. So I
Mm.
prefer to use the word medicine woman. That you could say is problematic as well. You know, I play around with different terms, but ultimately, yeah, shamanism is this larger happening of this cultural, spiritual way of life. And that those who engage in shamanism are engaging with an ancient, ancestral, and indigenous to all humanity spiritual way of life. Embodied spiritual way of life, because it is that interweaving and that marriage between the earth and the physical and the spiritual, knowing that there is no separation, that there is no difference.
Chills. Yes. Thank you so much for your eloquence and just noting the different considerations of like cultural appropriation and globalization and colonialism, and just like, yeah, anybody is like, oh, I'm seeing a vision of like, you know, those it's like a meme with like the Halloween costumes where it's like you could just have this bag of like Steve the shaman. it's like the list of all the like adornments that you would have.
Exactly.
Like Insta
has his rattle,
shaman.
has his drum.
Insta shaman. Yeah, and it's just become a bit of a meme. And but it's like such a profound, I'm fascinated by these things in our world that are like so sacred and profound, that have been almost like purposefully appropriated to be made like mundane or like commercialized, or just like to be desecrated. Like I feel similarly about Tantra, which I've practiced for many years, but I've always felt a resistance to describing my work as tantric or anything having to do with Tantra. But inherently, everything that I've always been called to share is all about sexual healing. It's all about embodiment. It's all about energy work. I mean, it's just, it's Tantra all over it. But I just don't want to be like almost reappropriating a term that I see so many people using so lightly with no intention, with very little embodiment, with a lot of like lacking integrity and distortion. And yeah, you know, but then like something that hit me so hard in the training last, and also with the circle with you and Amma, and continued in ISTA, which is like literally the level 1 training is spiritual, sexual, shamanic experience. So it's like coded in the container. And the download I got that I guess I'm still landing in is like, it's really not useful to be like holding up the judgment or irritation or just playing that game of like, well, I don't want to be associated with those people, so I'm not going to use the term. Actually, what's more true is, because I am in integrity, and because I am authentic, and because I am committed to my embodiment, and because I am devoted to walking the true path in my way, and I resonate with this term in its original sense of meaning, then fuck yes, I have a responsibility to use it. Actually, I have a responsibility to be an example of what Tantra, of what shamanic actually means. It's like, I have a responsibility to do that. It is part of my path to do so, especially in a world with so much interference and distortion and so much shit for people to sift through. It's like even a higher stakes game to stand up in that responsibility. So I'm still kind of like, something is really moving through my body around that, because for years I was just kind of like, no, I don't want to be associated, because the noise and the distortion is so much louder, and I just don't even want to be in that. But actually, like, build your body and your nervous system to be powerfully in that field of distortion and noise, and stand out and be such a bright light that you actually just like shine light and illuminate through all the confusion, so people can see and feel what is actually true for them and what is in clear resonance for them. And maybe the people that are unknowingly weaving the distortions, then they get kind of like shocked out of their pattern too, and then can just see more clearly what's not true for them, you know? So what do you think?
Yes. I know, I really appreciate that. And I think you were talking about that in a recent post, or maybe on your season opener your podcast and the reclamation of the word priestess, which has similar ways that it's been appropriated and distorted and commercialized as well. And I really feel that, Sydney, the importance of the reclamation and being that strong pillar and space, that frequency holder of integrity through the distortions. It's like these words hold power. And so what is the power we want to bring to them through our embodiment and through our communication around these words, right? And I feel that if you are one who is thinking and feeling and processing deeply about this, and also willing to integrate that actively into the way that you are standing as an embodiment of this frequency and of this energy, that in of itself has a lot to say about your level of integrity. You know, some people will ask sometimes, like, how do I know if I'm not a narcissist or not? I'm like, the fact that you're questioning and that you're asking whether or not you're a narcissist is a good sign you're not a narcissist, you know?
That's such a good point. Oh my gosh. Okay, there's one little piece that's missing for me here. So you talked about we're going to kind of just go multidimensional because here we are. That's who we are.
Here we are.
And I'm like tracking all the layers, tracking all the dimensions of your story, your experience, all the intentions that we get to play with here. There's like so much rich wisdom percolating in this field. It's so fun. I feel all my cells all like activating and I want to know, like, going back a little bit. So you told the story and, you know, your family dynamic, even the family constellation part of like continuing your part of your mom's path with the PhD, fascinating. And then, and your brother, I remember that now, you had told me before, but I just felt that deep, you know, calling to like really acknowledge you for staying, for being here, for staying the path. And then, you know, and then you had this awakening with your quantum healing experience, and it helped to open your heart. And you really saw that the journey for you was about not learning externally and conceptually and through the mind, but actually through embodiment, through living it, through going on your own initiatory path and having these experiences, and that there wasn't all this work to do. Like, maybe I relate to that so much, that part of like, I got to go figure all this stuff out and organize it. And like, you start to get the keys and you want to go study it all and like template it out to make it available for other people. But then you find like, wait, someone else already did this. Like, what do I actually want to do? I don't need to go like teach all this stuff. Like, I actually like get to have my own experience. And tracking a little bit before that, maybe, was there like one singular moment? Was it the quantum healing moment, or was there like another moment where you were like, wow, like whatever timeline of this abuse that had been happening, like whatever identity of like the person that wanted to say no but couldn't say no, like but wasn't empowered to be here, like was there any other kind of like moment in your transition? I'm asking this from the lens of like anyone listening who's like, oh my God, like I've gone through so much abuse, I've had so much trauma, it's still showing up in my life. Even though I've done so much healing, it's still showing up in subtleties in my relationships. And like, it's like, I don't know what I don't know. And how, like, is there a milestone or some kind of a sign or a warning moment that I could be looking out for to help redirect me to like something new, to make a new choice, to just like really see like, wait a minute, okay, this timeline over here with the abuse and the victim and just all of those energies, like that is complete. And I'm going to move into this new, I'm going to see some new choices that maybe I wasn't availing myself to see before. I think it, for me, comes up as like a choice. Like you see that you actually have a choice, because nobody saved you. Like no one was going to, maybe someone could have, I don't know. I don't know if people can save you from these experiences. It's like, and as the, shamanic path says, it's like, we are the one that has to learn to see and know and make that choice for ourselves. And so, yeah, when was that? There's another moment maybe where you just saw a new choice that wasn't possible before.
Yeah. What comes forward for me about that is back to my master's program and having that realization in my second year that indeed I had been being abused by this man named Ron for 11, 12 years off and on, and that there was this deep clarity that I was done with that, and that I was not going to engage in that anymore. And then came the beginning of of the real work, right? And so I got my first therapist, and she was the first person I ever told about this abuse. And that was a huge, huge release. And even in the sharing of that, I was like questioning. I was like, was it abuse? Was it? And still just, de-processing, deconditioning my mind from all those tight corners I was held in for so long. And a part of that process and working with my therapist was coming to the point where I knew I had to speak to my mother about it, who is still very devoted to this man. And I decided to write her an email because that was one of the ways that me and my mother communicated best. And her response to that email was to forward it on to him. And so she never actually spoke to me about it. He spoke to me about it, and in come the gaslighting, in come the blaming, in come the shaming, in come all the emotional manipulation. I ended up reporting him to CPS at that point. And of course, that's a whole other journey because the legal systems don't really support us. They didn't do anything in the end to support me, really. However, what that brought forward was this space between me and my mother, where here I was, I'm standing in the truth. This is real. This is what's happened. This has been my whole life with you. And I'm not going to deny it anymore. I'm facing it. I'm reclaiming myself, and I'm not allowing abuse in my life anymore. And then my mother, who refused to communicate with me about it at all. There was never once that we directly talked about it. She would not. And when it came time to have my graduation, she was meant to come to that. And then we were going to have that conversation. She flew in, but she didn't come see me. And so that was very hard to bear, and led me to a place of recognizing I can't remain in relationship with my mother. If I do, I'm remaining in this toxic family system, and I'm going to continue to be influenced by his energy through my mother, even if he's not in my life anymore. And also just the pain of like her not being able to even talk to me about it. So that was a decision point for me, that I could choose to continue these triangulation and all of the toxic family dynamics, or I could choose to do something that had terrified me about even getting him out of my life earlier, which was to put this space between me and my mother, and to have my mother not be in my life. And so that point was not an easy one to come to, but I realized, like you said, like I would be in victim state and I would be not able to heal if I continued to be in contact with my mother. So I went no contact with her. And that was 8 years ago. And we have not been in contact since. I have reached out to her a few times and sent her my love, let her know that I love her, but I can't have her in my life if we can't talk about things. I have not heard back from her. I have a feeling and knowing that at some point in life, maybe after I have kids someday, she's going to come back in. But, that's, so I guess, to the question, to the point of like, what do I need to do to like change things? Sometimes it's going to be fucking hard.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not going to be an easy choice. Sometimes you're going to have to give up people, places, things, relationships, lifestyles that have meant the world to you. Sometimes you will have to create distance between your loved ones, between your family, in order to heal. But in the end, I needed to choose myself, and it is a choice. And I actively chose myself that day. And it was also another major turning point in shifting my timelines and shifting me into a whole new reality, because I don't think I would have ever been able to come to the point where I am now, where I can speak on all of this, speak of it plainly, speak of it clearly, even though it's pretty intense. It's intense stuff.
Yeah.
If I hadn't given myself the space to be with all of this and to do many years of work in, many different ways. So it was a choice of my sovereignty and of my self-love, truly.
Wow. Yeah. I'm just like, I'm honoring your strength and courage and bravery, commitment to yourself, devotion to yourself, in the face of so much conditioning too that we're just up against constantly culturally. That's like your biological family and just like all of that. And, you know, and especially, I mean, for me, it comes up as like, as a healer, as a facilitator, like, you know, like, yeah, how's your relationship with your family? Like, is it good? Like, are you, I have something in my programming is around, you know, if I'm really a good teacher, if I'm really doing the work and I'm really healing and I'm really on my embodiment path, then like things with my family should be pretty good. I'm not like, you know, a lot of people out there I see who are teaching about alignment or whatever, it's ascension, but then they have major trauma and toxic dynamics running in their personal relationships or in their family, and they're just love and light, but bypassing, like facing the real shit. And, you know, so I have a bit of a story about like, yeah, if I'm really on my path, then things should be good with my family. And even if that means just relating to them as people or as unhealed inner child, you know, vibes or whatever, but it's neutral. And that's not my experience right now. And hearing you and this permission to give space, to allow for space, and that's sometimes required on this path. Just feels really affirming, really assuring. It's like maybe we forget. I've forgotten sometimes, like, yeah, actually sometimes the most self-loving thing you can do is create a boundary and space from someone or something, a place that is just like really not serving. And it's like in times when I'm going through very deep layers of early childhood healing and ancestral healing, and things are getting activated in my family field, even if they're not aware. You know, after we had the ceremony for that weekend, I was offline for what, 2 days. And I think I told my parents, we don't even talk every day anyway, but I was just away for 3 days or 2 days. And I had all these messages from my whole family afterwards, like just blowing me up. Like, are you okay? Like, is everything okay? Like so worried because they felt the energy clearing. And frankly, they felt my cords of energy that had still been attached to, especially my mom, getting pulled back. The enmeshment I have had with my mother is, I mean, I was in her womb for 9 months, but also like just the emotional enmeshment growing up in such a disorganized family system with like such lacking attunement and presence and narcissism and alcoholism and just, you know, thank God, no, I mean, who knows? It's all, none of it is like, you don't want to like compare abuse, right? But it's like, I didn't experience sexual abuse in my family. I subjected myself to that later on, or early on, 14, around the same age when I started drinking and doing drugs. I very much so like subjected myself to a lot of abuse, but not in my family, not in my home, but alcoholism and neglect and abandonment and just, you know, similar threads maybe too to your dynamic, but then so much enmeshment and having to learn to like track the whole family field and hyper vigilantly just, you know, tracking, is everything okay? Am I gonna survive? Like these people are fucking crazy. Like, and then disassociating like my whole life because it was just so uncomfortable to be in that environment and to feel, to be so empathic and psychic and to not know that, but to feel so much. And it's like, fuck that. I don't want to feel this. This is crazy. And I would just be out. I'd be like in the 12th dimension. But then learning to have this face, this posturing of like performer, good student, say the right thing, empathically tracking you to see what you want me to say, so you'll like me, all these strategies. So much management, so much energy, tracking all this shit all the time. And then, you know, my embodiment path has just been about learning to see those things, to bring awareness to them, let them go. But then always this thread of the family and the forgiveness piece. It's like deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper it goes, infinitely. And still the waves of like, I need space again. I can't interface with them when I'm going through things like this, because it's too much. It's too much to try to connect. There's no connect. There's actually not true connection available. There's not connection at the level of depth that I require available. And that can still hurt, if I'm honest. Can still really hurt when I'm going through the inner repatterning of like the, reattachment, healing attachment wounds in myself. It's like, no, I must be really discerning of who I'm choosing to share space with, and to really only seek out reciprocal, balanced, clear connections with people that can actually meet me, during those times. So thank you so much for naming that and just living the example, to be permission for other people that, that's an option, that's a possibility, certain points in our path. And it just brings up a lot for me about like this present wave I'm surfing. And so where did it all, so you started your shamanic initiation, you found your teacher, led you to more teachers and teachings and experiences, and I'm sure just a lot of remembering of like,
Yes.
oh yeah, I've done this before, I've been here before, okay, cool. Like this lifetime was a lot about like get all the lessons really young, really fast, kind of so we could just get on the path quicker. And that's what it seems like to me. Like, okay, yeah, like I lived like a couple lifetimes before I was like 20 years old, and then you remember. And then where did plant medicine come in? Because I've known you, I want to name too, like when you first came into my field, I was very much in a dynamic with a teacher and a group, where it was very rigid sobriety, very rigorous, like dogma about sobriety and anti-plant medicine and blah, 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 blah. And just a lot of ego around that, spiritual elitism. And then I left that organization in August. But I want to say that probably when I first met you, and this is to many people, especially in Big Island, like I had judgment. I was like, I probably had some judgment, or maybe you even felt it in my field, or I don't know, like, but I just named that because it's not authentic to me to judge people. It's like not actually my truth to judge people for doing what's true for them, and for like doing things that work for them to heal and to transform and to expand. But because I was in this organization, I gave a shit ton of power to, that was my choice to do that. I definitely carried a lot of judgment, and then like maybe protection, and maybe even a little bit of distance from certain people that I, just knowing that they're involved in plant medicine, there would be like a protector up in me of like, oh, I don't know if we can really fully connect in clarity or at the level of depth or in a safe way that I really prefer. I love connecting with people in clarity. I love connecting in presence. That's my preference, absolutely. But to judge people for like, they do plant medicines, they have entities or whatever the story was, like, I'm just naming that to say, like, if that was ever present in your awareness, that I was distant or protective or standoffish at all, like that's what I was going through at that time. And then to share ceremony with you, you were like, what? You signed up for the ceremony? It was just such a cool culmination. And so I'd love to get curious about what your calling was to plant medicine, and to just learn more about that part of your life.
Yeah. I just want to say too, I appreciate you so much, Sydney. I really love all that you are, and I love your path of growth and your authenticity and your humility, and your love. And I just think you're such a wonderful embodiment, and I'm so grateful that you're here and grateful to be weaving with you. And I understand that space of judgment around it. I grew up with the dare and no stank you, and like really like, oh, drugs are bad, and was very like standoffish to all those things. And I didn't even have cannabis until I was like 21. And where I suppose you could say plant medicine came into my field then, and cannabis is a whole other story that I know both you and I could say lots of different things about. But where I really started to journey with plant medicine was in 2017, when I had psilocybin mushrooms for my first time. And I think there had been some kind of attraction to it, and also a fear around it. Just all of the kind of the propaganda around, you're going to lose your mind, and, all these different things. And what I found was actually like a relationship to the spirit of these plants. That was one of the first things that really came forward for me, both with psilocybin and with ayahuasca. My first time sitting with ayahuasca, she welcomed me home to her at the beginning of my journey. She was like, I missed you. Like, what? You know? And so, like you were saying, yeah, you know, this path has been a lot of different teachers in many different ways, and a reminder again and again and again that this is also a path of remembrance, and that my own soul, perhaps my own shamanic blueprint, like I hold these codes, and it's about going through the different kinds of activations and initiations. And plant medicine has been a big part of that process for me as well, in reminding me and showing me who I am through the different levels of awareness and embodiment. Like mushrooms, for instance, always has me feeling so embodied. I don't really go anywhere else. It just takes me deeper and deeper into my body. And that's the psychedelic journey right there, being deep in your body. Yeah, these plant allies, these plant medicines, these plant spirits, also awakening and remembering to deeper connections of spiritual ties, soul ties, and connections and weaving across lifetimes, which is really all about this bigger weaving of interconnection, of connection of the earth. You know, that I am not separate from these plants, I'm not separate from these spirits, yet we're having these journeys in these different kinds of bodies, and it's all a part of this greater whole. And so a big part of it for me has been this remembering, this awakening process that I've had with plant medicines, which has been very multidimensional. And that also has really been paramount in my healing, in my trauma healing, both in that piece of helping me to get back in my body, helping me to reconnect to myself, really realizing how much I already know about doing soul retrieval. I've learned about it in kinds of contexts from like, no, I just know this. I know how to do this, you know, and having the plants like supporting me in that remembrance, clearing things, clearing a lot from my own self, from my own body, from my lineages, from the collective, through portals that plant medicines have helped me to open. And there's been, you know, some aspects of my journey with plant medicines that have been absolutely paramount and pivotal in my healing journey. You know, there's like an adage that many people will say, like one session of ayahuasca is like 40 years of therapy or something like that. I've had that experience. I've had that lived experience. And it's been a major integral part of, again, my own personal healing. But then there's this weaving that is clear to me where my own personal healing journey, my own spiritual journey is very connected to my journey of service. And there's this kinship and this alliedship with these plants, and this deep reverence and respect, because they can be misused, they can be abused, they can be used to abuse, and all of that matters a lot. And so that's another piece where, you know, the psychedelic integration work that I do, the bridging of trauma-informed therapy practices with the shamanic world, all of that really matters to me, because I'm here to be a portal of healing in my own life and help to spread that through these spaces. And this is one of those spaces with
thank goddess you're in those spaces. I'm like, oh my God, like, oh yeah, it's so cool to hear your articulation, and you're like a cosmic freestyler. Like, I don't know if you noticed that, but you're just like, you rhyme, you're like da 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 da, and I'm like, yes, put it on the track. You're such an amazing musician and songstress, and just like channeler and beautiful, and like having memories of your sound healings, and just yeah. And it's like, where do we go from here? I mean, well, just to keep it present, like the ceremony I had with you in November, like I kind of just feel like, wow, I would never do that again, probably, unless it was like that, you know, like with all of the support and all of the embodiment intention and all of the trauma-informed facilitation, and just like super pristine, clear field, and just beauty and nourishment and just like, wow. And really not, it's rare, I think, to be like that. Like the first time the first time I was called to ayahuasca, it was more like to be a voyeur, honestly. I was like, all these people in LA are doing this, a bunch of my clients are doing it. Like I don't know if it was like this deep calling to do some big repatterning. It was more like, I got to go see what this is about. So I could kind of remember, which I kind of already knew because I had done it before in other times. And similar, when I first met, it wasn't more, the Aya wasn't like, welcome home. It was more like, what the hell are you doing here? Like, you don't belong here. Like, you're not supposed to be doing this right now. Like, what are you doing? Kind of joking and very, very trickster comedian. Me and Aya have this relationship of like, and actually I feel so connected with that energy, just the spirit of the being, like without needing to take anything. I just feel that my being in this dimension and this reality is very much a conduit for a lot of the similar resonances and essences that ayahuasca brings through her, and coming from the Palladian dimension and consciousness and sharing a lot of those values and just, being one of those that has been on earth many times to help seed new planetary consciousness and practice and just bringing more play and lightness. But so much of the Aya for me is like kind of a bit of a trickster, comedian, joking, tickling. It literally will just tickle me like out of my, like just so it's so playful and fun. But I had a concern going into this ceremony. I had, sobriety. I've been sober 11 years from alcohol. I've been sober from like cocaine for 11 years and stuff I used to do all the time, synthetic stuff. And, but then, I was very sober from everything for 3 years, 3.5 years, like very, very strict and not even alcohol and tinctures, like no kombucha, like very, very strict, no kava, like, and so then this calling to the ceremony was like, really? Like, for real? Okay, what? And then I was concerned. I'm like, okay, like on one level, I've done all this dimensional training and spiritual work to be able to navigate these psychedelic realms from an embodied place. Like, this is fun. Like now I get to take the skills for a ride. Like, let's see how they actually work. But then on another level, I'm like, okay, Aya has this agenda also, like as much as we can be co-creator, in my experience, we can be co-creators and be embodied and be present and not want to disassociate and kind of place our order for what we want to have in an experience. But then there's also this surrender to element of surrendering to this other beings. It is an entity surrendering to this other entity's agenda that might be quite different from what you plan and what you think. And that's part of the magic of the whole realm that we go play in. But I had some concerns about this going into this experience because I really didn't want to disassociate. And I actually don't like seeing the colors and the light. Like Aya will tempt me to be like, go look at all the kaleidoscopic colors and images and I actually don't like that because to me it feels immobilizing and I want to feel in my body and I want to work with the support that's available to do very deep nervous system healing and trauma release. And frankly, entity release of my last teacher that had a big cord going into my solar plexus, which you actually were there to support me. And I had to go into another space to just like really deeply release whatever was hooked in. And, so anyways, those are just some of the things that were present for me in that journey. And of course it was all always perfect. And there's so much support. And I think I only felt safe to go into those depths of like, that I went into because you were there and Amma was there and just the support of such a resourced field where I felt so safe and I could let go and I could surrender, but yeah, I got so much from that. It's hard to even put into words. I'm like going to be integrating for 10 years or something. It's like, wow. And then I can't believe people do that. Who knows? It's not a judgment, but I'm just like, wow, people do that really often. Wow. Like, how does that work? Like people are just like, almost very, I have concerns sometimes about the casual. There's like a certain, oh my gosh, in Tulum, there's like signs that are like ayahuasca ceremony. I'm like, what?
Oh, wow. Yeah, totally.
So I just dropped a bunch of little threads and I'm curious how any of that lands or any threads you want to pick up on.
Yeah, that's a rich bouquet of threads there. Yeah. I think there's such an important piece here around the casualness versus the intentionality. And one of the things that comes up for me is also just the place and the importance of culture. Because if we were born and raised in one of these ayahuasca cultures in South America, it would be totally different. It would be a normal, regular part of our lives. So there's that frequency that's different, but there's also this whole culture around it where it's deeply embedded and ingrained. And this is our ancestral work. This is our regular work. There's a whole other embodied awareness and living within the multidimensionality of reality that is just the way. And so if we were all living in a culture like that, and that was our regular thing, maybe it wouldn't be so perhaps startling or concerning if people were sitting with it frequently, but it also wouldn't be casual. It wouldn't be like, oh, hey, I'm going to just go drink some ayahuasca randomly now. You know, we would be in the culture of having the preparatory diet, of being intentional, of being with our community, with our brothers and sisters and our elders. And so I feel that this is an important kind of balancing point within the psychedelic revolution, within the plant medicine revolution. And my experience in communicating with these spirits is they're here for it. Like they're like, yes, we're trying to get out there. There's healing to be done. There's awakening to be done. There's reconnection with the earth to be done. And we're here for it. We're in service to Pachamama. We're in service to you in ways that you don't understand, but we're here for it. And we are human and we have minds and we have culture and we have all of these different pieces. And that's a part ultimately of the medicine as well, is bringing forth all of the griminess and the concerns and the colonized mindset and the appropriation and being one who lives in the modern world, in the post-industrial society, and is like in the digital age. You know, we're not being held in that culture of remembrance. So we need to approach it in a different way, coming from a different culture into this one or bringing that one into ours. There's a certain level of care and consideration, intentionality and finesse and containment that needs to be created so that this can be a space for deep healing and transformation, which is ultimately the whole point. And that is something that I really appreciate about Ama Sophia Rose. You know, she, like me, I hope you have her on your show. Yes. She has a profound journey that she's been on and has survived and thrived through so much trauma. And so she really gets it. She really gets it about the importance of creating safe space. And not only does she create a safe space, but she creates like this fully nourishing, beautiful, like goddess rich space. And that she wants and others to feel so held and so loved, because when we have that holding, that safety and that love, that is when our nervous system can start to reset. And that's when we have that deeper, more integrated healing. Because some people are going into ceremonies and just getting blasted wide open, and then they're just going into like regular busy life and like, woof, like that's where it is concerning. And you can open yourself to walk-ins and all kinds of, you know, negative entity attachments, if we want to say negative, but you know what I mean. Yeah. And we can, you know, even destabilize ourselves, re-traumatize ourselves. And I trust that all of that that's happening is a part of it for the collective evolution and growth. And a part of that being a part of it is the response to that and the deeper, more intentional cultivation, so that this really can be an enriching, nourishing space. And as indeed an integration specialist, I would say it doesn't end there. Right?
It's only just begun.
It's only just begun. Like you said, like I'm going to be integrating this for 10 years. You know, there's many deep ceremonies that I've had, I'm still going to be integrating, and I am, and they'll come up in different times for me. And so just trusting and knowing that it's not this momentary shift that changes everything, but it's how you embody it. And that's what I think integration is really about. How are you living this? How are you living the medicine of this experience in your everyday life? And you need to be intentional about that as well. Just like we need to be intentional with our energy, with our practices, what we eat, how we spend time, what we consume through all the portals of our being. We need to be intentional with taking the medicine of these deep experiences and becoming that medicine through our embodied lived experience.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. We are the medicine. We are the ultimate technology. A lot of these plant allies are just helping us to access our original technology. They're helping parts come online. It's like little attunements and activations and, you know, ways of seeing and feeling and being. And yeah, I know you have a lot to share on that. Was it that your voice and your sound healing abilities came through more in your ceremonial experiences? And is that part of it for you?
Yeah, what a beautiful question. You know, sound and singing has always been a part of it for me. Even as a kid, I was just always, you know, I'm making up songs. I'm like, oh, I was channeling back then as well, you know, being in choir and doing musical theater and doing, you know, talent shows and things like that. But indeed, it really has been in the deepening of my spiritual journey that I connected more and more with the power of sound and singing for myself. And then I got a really strong and direct message that I need to sing, that it's non-negotiable for my soul, that I must sing. And you know, I remember sharing that to someone once, and they're like, oh wow, like this dictation. I'm like, no, like that was like a permission, because it's my joy to sing. And I would say that being in the shamanic path and really realizing the power of sound, you know, that drum beat, that 4 to 7 beats per second, that also is the same frequency as the theta wave frequency. That is what gets us into our subconscious, what gets us to journey and to travel. And really in this, again, this process of remembering, wow, sound is everything. And then being in ayahuasca ceremonies and realizing that the sound was an integral part of my journey, that it was really helping me to weave and move through many different layers and dimensions within myself. It's a guide, it's an ally, it's a part of the process. And, you know, I had light language open for me the first time when I was in an ayahuasca ceremony. And I remember I just had like this feeling in my throat, and it was like, you're supposed to be silent. You're not supposed to talk. You're not supposed to, you know, be more meditative. But I just was like, oh, it's like bursting, like I had to. And then I just start channeling this light language. And I just felt the energy of Sirius really strongly. And since then I've come to connect with, yes, that's Syrian light language, that particular form. But it just opened up for me this remembering of the channel. And since then it's been a path of allowing, a path of trusting and allowing. And the more that I do that with my journey as a sound healer, as a musician, as a vocal alchemist, the more I am just blown away by the experiences that I have doing it and the feedback that I receive from others. You know, I've had a lot of people recently on island with different sound healings I've been doing here. They're like, that was a DMT trip for me. I felt like I was on a deep medicine journey, that I had the bufo space coming forward, you know. And it, again, we are the medicine. These plants point us to it, you know, bufo, an animal, points us to it. And so allowing and trusting that base element of reality, sound, to come through me without letting my mind in the way. It's like, wow, this is really powerful. And that we all have this ability.
Yeah.
We all have it.
Yeah, you are something else. I've had some of the most, and I haven't even had that many journeys with you, but we got to get a recording of that song, that beautiful song I had.
I know.
It's so beautiful. Like, we need the album. I need my like Sunflower Healing Tones album with the live looping. Like, I just need it. It's like I can just press play.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh
I've been feeling this call to record professionally for quite a while, and I'm just trusting the path of the unfolding with it. And I think I found the people that I'm actually going to do it with, and so it's getting that much closer. It's that much closer. I definitely will share with you when it comes.
That dude Pleiades, he has this recording studio. Also.
He does.
Maybe
he does. Yeah, I don't think it's him, but
okay.
I did reach out to him once. It was a dead end. That's how it's been. I've reached out to lots of different people about it, and it's always just not been it. So.
You got to find let the right resonance emerge. Yeah, special.
Exactly. Yeah, but yeah, Regal Lions, always a crowd pleaser.
Yeah. Aww.
Yeah.
So nice to connect with you on the Big Island, Lemurian portal. And how's it feeling with the volcano? Mauna Loa, Kilauea, how are they? How are you with that?
Well, yeah, her flow has pretty much stopped now. And so it was brief. But yeah, it's been a beautiful journey to be here on the Aina, other than Kilauea crater filling up with lava. Like, this was my first time experiencing like a moving out across the Aina flow since moving here in 2020, and is very powerful, very strong energy. And I was blessed to have an opportunity 3 times, maybe 4 times during the time that she was flowing, to be offering sound in community and getting to really connect with Pele, connect with the Aina, and channel through her frequencies. Was super medicinal for me. I had been feeling a lot of energy and like kind of unsettled that first day of the eruption. But once I connected in with Pele and I allowed her to sink through me, it was just, it just shifted me into a whole other place for the rest of the flow. So yeah, it's amazing to be here and to live on this Aina. It's always so humbling and empowering at the same time. And it's a privilege and a gift to be here for sure.
Oh, I so feel that. Thank you for sharing. That feels so good to hear, and makes me miss a little bit. I'm like, oh.
Yeah. I know you'll come back to Hawaii sometime.
I'll be back when the calling, but the calling to get out was like, get out of there. And the pre-waving of the eruption was really affecting me. It was really shaking up a lot in my system. And I was like, I was on the ley line, like right in Leilani, like that house was potent, and I was there for a long time holding it down. And then it was just time to go. Like, my timeline ended so kind of abruptly, kind of not, but like abruptly in a way, like in August, it's like, go. And I'm really meant to be right where I am right now, or else I'd be somewhere else. But I feel so good to be here, and it's like a whole other energy in Tulum. It's like a big city. It's so built up compared to when I was last here, and I'm adjusting, and I'm like on my motorbike, and it's like the elements of like things not really working, like Bali, and like, oh, like you make an appointment with someone to help you with something, and you realize that they actually were going to call someone else to come, and they never called, and like it's just very everything is like deep training and surrendering to more presence and compassion and acceptance. And so is life, right? But especially in some of these places on earth, there's like an additional initiation level.
It's just initiation on initiation on initiation out here in this timeline.
Dude, for real. Part of me is like, sign me up for the advanced program right now. Like, that's what my soul is wanting. Okay, let's do it again. Like, it was really comfy in Hawaii. In some ways. Yeah. Oh, yeah, we could just go on forever. We could talk so much more about the intricacies of the plant medicine experience itself. Like I do have a curiosity to explore that. I feel like we touched in on that just in person during our time together, and maybe that's enough. But yeah, I'm feeling like a winding down of the energy for now for this sharing. And I guess I'm curious, like if there's two different things, anything that you feel like is alive to share, just like last words or last thoughts or anything else you wish you could just name in the space. And then also I'd love to know invitations that you have for people to connect with you and learn about your beautiful offerings and stay posted on when the album drops, and like getting to work with you for your amazing facilitation and integration support and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll share about that second part first, and say that I am available for different kinds of one-on-one experiences with people, doing psychedelic integration, doing what I call shamanic soul facilitation, which is a container for deepening into that path of trauma healing. And given the journeys that I've been on, I really specialize in helping people with complex trauma. And bringing together that bridge of the psychology and the counseling background with the shamanic realms and quantum healing and hypnotherapy and all the kind of things. And I also do private healing ceremonies with people here on island, and sound baths, also in person, private as well, and do different kinds of like divination and little things like that too. And I also am available for mentorship if people are looking to bring in more trauma-informed practices into their spiritual work, or people are looking to bring in more spirituality into their counseling or their coaching or their therapy, that and having that ethical, integrous, integrated container is something I feel really passionate about helping people with. So those are all my individual offerings that I have on the table right now. And also people can find out more about me and my work. My website, alisiasunflower.com, on Instagram at the Alisia Sunflower, and I'll post updates and things in those places. And there's always kind of more retreats in the mix. Amma has another retreat coming up in January, the 13th through the 16th, all women, and that's going to be an ongoing thing. So just staying tuned in on the socials is probably the best way for all of that. And yes, one of these days that album drop is gonna come through.
Oh my gosh, it's coming through. We see it. So we'll have all that linked in below, and definitely gonna have Amma on in January or February. And I just have to say, like, I just so see you like training facilitators, and like you have major codes on that, like ways to really help people that are called to the shamanic facilitation world, and like have this remembrance, and they're doing, and they're walking with integrity and authenticity, but they need some support with understanding more attunement and about nervous system repair, and like more of the somatics and psychology, and just the keys that you are so well versed in. And it can really like bring a whole new level of standard to how ceremonies are held, and just to like make trauma-informed facilitation the norm. Like I would love to see more of that in the world, and I feel like you are a key piece in making that happen. So yes, please.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, for now I'm doing one-on-one mentorship, but stay tuned because I'm going to have some bigger things coming out this year in exactly that vein. Yeah.
Perfect.
And so I just wanted to offer a small little, my closing thought is actually a little bit of sound. Oh, I don't know if you can super see it.
Oh, the golden chalice. Yes.
This is one of Amma Sophia Rose's chalices, of course. This is the Cathar wheel. So holding the Taurus of community and connection with the Christ consciousness within and without. Andres Yondoshi Dari Dosi Agradeciendo tienda teo. Agradeciendo inandio. Shinda 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 shinda. All beings remember with joy and passion and grace and deep embodiment the truth of who we are.
Absolutely perfect. Thank you so much. I love you.
I love you. Yeah, thank you so much for having me on and having this delicious conversation. Yeah, I feel like we could just talk forever. I'd love to talk to you more.
We'll just keep hanging out forever. It's how it goes.
Okay. I think we've been doing it. We'll just keep doing it.
Just keep going. Yep. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for listening in with us. It's such a pleasure to share. We've cultivated such a beautiful energy today. May it just ripple out to the planet, through the multiverse, to any and all beings that are really ready to receive, simply receive. And thank you for being on Earth at this time, everyone. It is quite a time to be alive and thriving and actually truly living, awake. Like, wow, congratulations, we are here. And we'll see you next time. And Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, all the holy days, all the things. We love you so much. Yay.